You've probably heard the Primeval Current described as a source of glintstone sorcery, and I used to think that too. But the more I dug into Elden Ring's lore, the more I became convinced that we've been asking the wrong question. The Primeval Current isn't where magic comes from, it is where everything goes. From this perspective, the Primeval Current may not be the source of cosmic power at all. It may be the Elden Ring's version of a black hole, a force pulling stars, souls, fate, and perhaps even the gods themselves toward a single destination. At first that may sound ridiculous, but actually the stars control fate. Life comes from stardust. The greater will is associated with a great rupture in the cosmos, and every major character who glimpses the Primeval Current comes away horrified. So what did they actually see? And I think the answer changes how we understand the entire universe of Elden Ring. One thing has always bothered me about the way people talk about the Primeval Current. Most explanations treat it like a magical power source, a kind of a cosmic battery, a place where sorcerers go to gain forbidden knowledge. But that doesn't really fit the language used throughout the Elden Ring game. A current isn't a location, it's a movement. A river or ocean current carries things. Something caught in a current is being taken somewhere. That is why I started looking at the Primeval Current differently. Not as a place, not even a source, but as a process, a cosmic flow. And strange pieces of the Lands Between lore suddenly begin lining up. If the Primeval Current is associated with movement, then it doesn't seem to generate things, but it seems to carry them. And that raises a terrifying possibility. If stars are flowing, where are they going? One of the most common ideas in Elden Ring lore is that the stars govern fate. But I've started wondering, what if to look at this relation backward? What if the stars aren't controlling destiny but are trapped inside it? Think about Radahn. When Radahn holds a star, he holds the fate itself. That isn't astrology. That is infrastructure. The stars aren't symbols, they are part of the machinery. Something about their movement is essential to reality. Count Humir suggests that the life originates from the stardust. Glintstone is repeatedly linked to stars. Sorcery emerges from glintstone. Souls seem connected to celestial forces. In other words, stars don't just give influence to life. Life itself emerges from them. So now we have a universe where stars create life, shape destiny, and move through a mysterious cosmic current. At that point I stopped thinking about the stars like objects in Elden Ring. I started thinking about them as travelers. Everything connected to them is moving. Stars, souls, fate, life, all of them are moving. And if all of those things are moving through the same cosmic current in the Lands Between, then they may have been heading toward the same destination. That is where the black hole theory starts becoming difficult to ignore. Because black holes starts looking like destinations. Places where everything gets pulled inward and ordinary rules stop making sense. Places where reality itself begins to collapse into something we can barely comprehend. Which sounds suspicious, similar to the Primeval Current. I don't think the Primeval Current exists independently of the Greater Will. I think they are connected. By the way, there is a video explaining Greater Will on my channel, and the link about this is gonna be in the description to this video. Anyway, let's move on. Many interpretations of the Elden Ring's creation story describe the One Great as a primordial unity. Everything was once one. Then came fractured souls, birth, and individual existence. A great rupture scattered life throughout the cosmos. I think it sounds familiar, yeah? Because it resembles a mythological version of the Big Bang. A single unity breaks apart, countless separate things emerge, stars spread across existence, life begins. But what if that is the only half of the story? What if the hidden half is convergence? The universe doesn't just expand, it also longs to reunite. This idea appears everywhere in Elden Ring. The law of regression, the idea that things naturally seek reunion. Most people interpret this as a philosophical concept. What if they are literal? What if they are cosmic? In astronomy, there is a concept known as a great attractor, an enormous gravitational anomaly towards which vast regions of the universe appear to be moving. Entire galaxies drift toward it, not because they choose to, but because they cannot help it. And that is exactly how the Greater Will begins to look through this lens. Not simply a god, not merely an intelligence, but a cosmic force drawing reality toward itself. A force so vast that stars, souls, fate, and life all become part of the same movement and the same current. And if that is true, then the Primeval Current may be the visible expression of that pull. And this is a part that convinced me more than anything else. Every major figure associated with the Primeval Current ends up broken. Azur glimpses it and becomes obsessed. Lusat glimpses it and loses himself. Primeval sorcerers abandon ordinary life entirely. If they discovered cosmic truth, shouldn't they become enlightened? Instead, they become horrified. And I think that's because they were not looking at infinite knowledge. They were looking at inevitable future. Imagine realizing that every star is moving toward the same destination. Every soul, civilization, god, every form of life, everything. Imagine discovering that individuality itself is temporary, that separation is temporary, that all distinctions eventually disappear, that the entire universe is flowing toward reunion in Elden Ring in order to become one thing again. That may sound terrifying, not because it means death, but because it means the end of individuality. A black hole isn't frightening because it destroys matter. It is frightening because it erases boundaries. And that's exactly what the Primeval Current seems to represent in Elden Ring. Not destruction, but absorption. Not annihilation, but return. The realization that everything eventually becomes part of something larger, and perhaps always was. To be fully honest, I don't think the Primeval Current is a black hole in Elden Ring, at least not literally. I think it's Elden Ring's version of the reverse Big Bang. Let's now look at the story from the beginning to end. The one great exists, then comes rupture, fracture, separation, stars, souls, individuality. The universe expands outward. But the deeper lore of the lands between keep pointing us to reunion, toward a return to unity. The frenzied flame wants all distinctions erased. The law of regression speaks of reunion. The stars govern a shared destiny. Everything is connected, moving and flowing. What if the Primeval Current is that process, not a location, not a force, but the cosmic movement of reality trying to return to its original state? The current pulling creation back toward the one great. And suddenly the Primeval Current isn't just a place of sorcery lore. It's a hidden story of Elden Ring itself, a universe born of separation and struggling against reunion. A universe where stars, souls, fate and gods are all being carried by the same invisible current. And somewhere beyond the stars, beyond the abyss, beyond the greater will, that current still flows, toward the place where everything began in Elden Ring universe. And, perhaps, the place where everything will end. Thanks for watching, hit that like button and subscribe for more Elden Ring and other Souls-like games lore and guide videos, and stay sharp out there, Tarnished.